And welcome back to the Pride of Detroit POD cast. And as promised, sun god time. The sun is rising. Our hands are out in supplication. And I feel vindicated in very big ways. I think we were talking about this the other day, Jeremy. A lot of guys, a lot of us covering the Lions. You get a lot of people who mistake you as being a Michigan person as well. Michigan State fans make sure that their voices are always heard no matter what, even when you didn't ask for it. Very rarely does someone outside that duopoly, like myself, a proud Trojan, only graduated a few years ago from the master's program, get to do something as cool as preen about with not only a good draft pick, but a draft pick from the fourth round that a lot of people were like, it's just Golden Tate. Maybe that's a ceiling. I don't know. Through the start of his first year so far, Amon-Ra St. Brown has eclipsed all but two Lions wide receivers in yards in their rookie year. The only two in front of him, Calvin Johnson, which if Amon-Ra gets, I think, 65 more yards, he passes Calvin Johnson, and Roy Williams. And this is what I spent a lot of time in the break trying to find. Right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown ranks second in the NFL over catches over the last month, third in yards, and he has joined Odell Beckham Jr. as the only rookies to ever catch 8 passes in 4 straight games. So clearly, there's a hot streak going on. And I know part of that is that the Lions have a lack of receivers to have multiple options. It's Josh Reynolds and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's no TJ Hawkinson. Khalif Raymond has stopped being really part of the plan. But we talked about him after that game-winning touchdown, and he led receivers in this game with 9 catches. And Jeremy, I don't know if he is going to be the locked-in wide receiver number 1 for the future, but I would also contend there's no such thing as a clear-cut wide receiver number 1 in this day and age with a modern offense. And Amon-Ra has shown you that he's more than just what you plan for when you have a slot receiver. He does. I don't know. I haven't felt this confidence since. Why am I blanking on his name? Damn, never mind. You know me. I just blanked.
It's interesting, man. Like, I think the minute he stepped on to the field in training camp, we knew there was something special about his attitude.
Anquan Bolden. That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew, he had some Hines Ward in him. And that name has come up again with, I don't know if it was, I think it was the offensive coordinator who compared him to that. But I guess there was still some questions about what he could do on the field because he never was like a number 1 option there at USC. He was just kind of like, I don't even want to say a gadget player because that seems too gimmicky, but he was a guy that it seemed like they just couldn't find a big time role for him. And halfway through the season, the Lions have managed to do that. And I think it's important to point out the things you pointed out. The Lions don't have a lot of great receiving options right now, especially over this past month where he's been so electric because the one guy you didn't mention who has missed a full month and beyond is DeAndre Swift, who had been one of Jared Goff's favorite checkdown targets through the first 2 months of the season. And so there is a question to be had here whether Amon-Ra is creating his own opportunities or if he's simply the only one out there that is capable of catching the ball. But I think in a way it doesn't matter because he's proving he's capable of being the centerpiece of an offensive game plan. And that's what he is. Like, there's no going about it. Like, right now it's not TJ Hawkinson, it's not Craig Reynolds, it's not Jared Goff, it's not anyone else. Like, Amon-Ra is the center of this offense, especially the passing. I would argue maybe he's even the center of the offense if you throw in the running game a little bit as well, because he's a game changer right now. He's moving the sticks. He's scoring touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games, where he had 0 in the first 8 or whatever it was. This guy is good. This guy is going to be maybe not the centerpiece once they get a couple more pieces in place, but he is going to be a piece and a big one. And that's pretty darn exciting for a 4th-round pick.
I feel like I need to let Chris rebuttal to that before I.
No, I agree with all that. I mean, like, to your point, Jeremy, if you get open, it doesn't matter if you're the only target, you're still getting open.
Right.
And I look to somewhere like, I don't know, Cincinnati, where, we know Jamar Chase is the main guy there, but guess what? T. Higgins still catches an incredible amount of passes there, even though he's not Jamar Chase, which again, having good receivers, it doesn't matter how much you split the ball out, as long as you're getting open and as long as you're making plays when you get that ball in your hand, you're still an impactful player. And again, the stat speaks for itself. And I don't think it's just because of, a lack of options too. Like, you don't get that when there were other times when the Lions had a lot of lack of options and they didn't get these kind of numbers out of someone like Amon-Ra. Well, and he's doing it with like a guy like Jared Goff.
To me, before you jump in, Ryan, the most shocking stat to me is the one where he has 8 catches in 4 straight games, which no Lions receiver has done that except for one. I'm not talking about rookie receivers. No Lions receiver has ever caught 8 passes in 4 consecutive games except for one. And that one was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, high praise, man. I mean, he's putting up the stats to back it up, right? And I think what I like so much and what makes me think that maybe if Amon-Ra can't be like the number one guy, he can be like the supplemental guy that could be enough to play the 1B to the 1A, right? Like, it seems like if you get a big physical receiver that you can put on the outside, you can still keep doing the really fun stuff that this offense is doing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he got a little bit of like the Deebo Samuel treatment on Sunday.
Yeah.
2 carries for 19 yards, both of them like super cool plays. I mean, essentially the exact same play, right? But like, it worked twice, and it worked twice because you put the ball in that guy's hands and he goes and he makes a play, and he made a couple people miss on those runs. Yep. And, ended up making, 2 big chunk plays on both those carries. And we're not even talking about the 9 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown, which, here's the thing that I looked up before we got into this, but this includes tight ends as well. Okay. But Amon-Ra is 23rd in the NFL by next gen stats in separation. Like, and that includes tight ends. And you think about some of the tight ends in this league, I mean, they're getting matched up against linebackers. They create a lot of separation. So you have guys who can do that, like Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson at times, and, all these athletic tight ends. But like, even with those guys in the mix, like Amon-Ra St. Brown as a rookie, 23rd in the NFL in separation among pass catchers. I feel like that's something that this offense has been missing for so long.
Do you have that list up still?
I do, yeah.
Can you scroll down to the bottom and tell me who's last?
Can I tell you who's last?
Yeah, because I think I know who it is.
Oh, man.
He's tied.
Oh, go ahead.
It's Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it is.
He's tied with Devontae Parker.
Oh, my. Wow, that's too perfect. So, yeah, I think what makes it surprising is, again, like, look, I'm not going to quibble with like the draft grade or anything. I think Amon-Ra kind of got lost in the shuffle of like USC always has great receivers coming out. I think it speaks to Brad Holmes's ability to pick up on wide receivers late in the draft. But like, I think we weren't talking about Amon-Ra in the draft as a separation guy. We were talking him as that physical slot receiver who was working out late at night when he didn't go in day 2 of the draft.
Yeah.
We thought of him as the physical guy, and he's showing you like, no, he can get separation. He can go fast, and he can ditch the corner and make things happen. It's just, so I'm trying not to fanboy too much on him. I'm really not, but
I'm trying not to too, but I mean, like, when you have a guy who's not only playing this well in his rookie season, despite being, lacking some of those physical gifts that you'd think you need to create that sort of separation. and then you combine it with a work ethic that is just unmatched. You have to think like the potential of this guy could just be off the charts. I mean, the physical gifts will limit him to a point where he's not going to be like a top 3 wide receiver in this league. I don't think that's what he'll be. And also, I mean, he's not a downfield threat either, right? Like he does his damage in the first 15 yards of the line, beyond the line of scrimmage. So there's limitations to his game in that sense, but in becoming like that perfect short yardage receiver that will get you first downs, that will be a goal line threat. Because like I said, the touchdowns are starting to come now. It's exciting to have that threat, and it makes you wonder, and this is kind of where I want to take the conversation. How much of a need is wide receiver like going forward? Because if Amon-Ra is one of those key pieces, and we're starting to see the emergence of Craig Reynolds, unfortunately, he gets put on
Josh
COVID.
Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds, thank you. Unfortunately, Josh Reynolds put on COVID today, so we might not see him this week, but Josh Reynolds is starting to show that he can stretch the ball downfield and be a reliable option for Jared Goff and kind of a perfect complement to Amon-Ra. So now maybe the Lions might have 2 key pieces to this wide receiving core, and yes, there's not a lot beyond that. Quintez Cephas is a guy that maybe we shouldn't completely forget about, considering he was showing some flashes before he broke his collarbone, but suddenly this doesn't seem like as dire of a situation as we were looking at it 2 months ago when this team was trading parts for Trinity Benson.
This team was making Khalif Raymond the receiving leader,
right? And
multiple weeks.
And listen, the Lions aren't in a spot where they're operating, given the talent around the roster, completely, where I don't think they can lock themselves into one position, anyways. But I'm curious as to what you guys think. Like, I feel like we all agreed wide receiver was a must draft position 2 months ago. Do you still feel that way?
Not on day one. Not on day one. Maybe not early day 2 either. I think you've pushed it completely off there, and you can start targeting more structural integrity roles, like on defense, or even. I mean, I'm not. Is there a skill position that the Lions really would need? That I'm trying not to say running back, because I know where Jeremy falls on that kind of thing.
I hate to say it, but they might need a tight end.
They might need another tight end for the depth.
They definitely need a tight end. They definitely need a tight end.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Not a running back, though. They're fine on running backs.
Yeah, I mean, unless Brad Holmes can pull. I mean, the only reason I could say is like if someone like an Olave falls into your lap, you definitely want to pull the trigger on that. But otherwise, I'm fine with taking late flyers if Brad Holmes can find some more value on some of these guys later in the game. As you say, there's plenty of other needs the Lions need to get to right now. And Amon-Ra has at least proven that he's going to be in here for the considerable future, unless something like completely falls off the table. And yeah, I mean, the Lions receiving core isn't great right now, but it's showing you that it's enough to get you by as we look at the first full calendar year of this rebuild.
Depending on where the Rams pick is, I would still be hugely in favor of the Lions taking a wide receiver in round 1. Like,
I mean, you could double dip and go after Drake London, but I think the problem on Drake London is I don't know what kind of receiver he is after that kind of injury he took. I know it's pretty much tanked a lot of his draft stock, but maybe he's there, or Olave, or
Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. Like, I mean, there are plenty of names to be thrown around about guys that I would be totally fine with the Lions still taking a wide receiver, because, I mean, yes, you have the emergence of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it like, to Chris's original point, like it takes more than one guy. It takes more than 2 guys in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Like, look at the spoil of riches that the Dallas Cowboys have at receiver, sure. Right? Like, why is their offense ticking? Sidebar,
Dak
it's
Prescott.
Not because it's not because of Ezekiel Elliott. Like, I mean, they're better off with Tony Pollard in their backfield, but they have CeeDee Lamb, they have Michael Gallup, they have Amari Cooper. Like, they have multiple guys who can get it done and line up in different spots. And the reason why I bring up CeeDee Lamb is I found this so interesting, but CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra have the same amount of catches, 74 through the games that they played. How many more yards do you think CeeDee Lamb has than Amon-Ra St. Brown?
So Amon-Ra has what? He has 692 yards.
Yep.
I'm gonna say CeeDee Lamb has 970.
I'm going to go back to the Bengals example too, because like I mentioned two guys, but consider like, okay, so they put Joe Burrow in there. We were all kind of giggling a bit because they didn't take an offensive lineman at the time, but like you look at that monster, because I mentioned Jamar Chase, I mentioned, T Higgins, but then, Tyler Boyd is also on that roster, and Joe Mixon's catch. I think last game had something like 6 catches, addition of running out of the backfield. Like, and suddenly they're the ones who are at the top of the AFC North and don't look like total frauds right now.
Yeah,
like
it's the only thing I would counter with those, like Amon-Ra, not Raymond,
Josh
Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds. Thank you. Okay. TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. Those are 4 pretty darn good receiving options. Now, I guess the big question here is, do you have that clear number one that will be able to go against a shutdown corner? And I think the answer right now is pretty clearly no. Like Josh Reynolds.
No, there's no one like a Jamar Chase.
Right. No Jamar Chase, no CeeDee Lamb, no whatever number one Devontae Adams. Like, you don't have that game-changing receiving threat that I think a lot of these top offenses do. And that's like, if one of those falls in your laps at 20 whatever, of course, go for it.
So I guess
even if it doesn't, I'm not against getting a receiver, but I guess my point is, like, as long as all these guys that I just mentioned, 4 or 5 decent receiving options are still there, I don't think you need to go in the first round necessarily, unless you think you get an absolute blue chip game changer.
Well, that just ties it back to our original topic, though. Can Amon-Ra, like, I know he's like blowing up everything right now, and it's easy to maybe knee jerk and say yes, but can he be that guy like a Jamar Chase?
I don't think so. But maybe.
So this takes it to my point, because Jeremy, it was 1,006 yards. So you were real close on CeeDee Lamb, right?
Yeah.
Their average depth of target difference, though. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6.7 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 10.9 yards.
So they need a field stretcher.
So then it becomes, can Amon-Ra St. Brown be that guy if there's a different guy under center? And I don't know, because I don't know. Like, I feel like I need to see it, because, like, I hate the Golden Tate comparison, because I don't think that there's a lot there. Like, other than the fact that he's a shifty wide receiver who can, play, multiple positions, whether or not it's outside or slot. But, like, I feel like you saw a lot of Golden Tate's kind of, in terms of his, like, field stretching ability, kind of get unpacked when he got here and he had somebody like Matthew Stafford. So I'm not saying that, like, a quarterback who came in here and all of a sudden, if you had like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown, that he would all of a sudden be this number one unstoppable threat that can stretch the field. But I certainly think he's better than an average depth of target of 6.7 yards. Like, I think that he can run some longer routes and do some other stuff. So maybe. I don't know. To Chris's point, I don't know if he can be the number one guy, but I sure am interested to see, like, if there's a different quarterback here, like, is there more to his game?
The only reason I push back there is I just feel like he's mostly a slot receiver. I mean, the Lions have used him there. I'm looking at the stats about 70-80% of the time. And, your route tree is limited there, and his size will limit him against some of the bigger corners. He's not a guy that's going to jump up and 50-50 a ball away from a defender there. I think the best downfield threat you get from him is on that kind of trick play they ran last week, right, where he faked blocking and then he's kind of slid up on a wheel route-ish type of route, and you hit him there. You're not going to ever get CeeDee Lamb numbers out of him. You're just not. Like, that's not who he's going to be.
I don't think he's going to get, like, Jamar Chase might get you in a game along, like, take it all the way to the house, like, get you like 60 plus yards on a bomb. I don't think what's Amon-Ra's long? It's like 34,
something like that. Probably,
37.
Yeah.
I mean, again, part of that is like, look who's throwing to him. Sure, you can't get that ball down the field, but my point is, like, we haven't exactly seen him in a foot race yet.
I guess my point is, like, Josh Reynolds in his limited time here already has 6 plays of 20+ yards downfield, whereas Amon-Ra has 7 for the entire season. Different receivers.
Yeah. Now, granted, I think Amon-Ra's role grew over time here.
Sure.
I think we noted, like, I had mentioned it several times. We kind of brushed it off multiple times because I'm like, hey, look at all these receptions Amon-Ra's getting. But those were always kind of coming in garbage time when the Lions were coming from behind.
Right.
And up until that point, they had been very, very conservative. And all of a sudden late, they decided to add Amon-Ra St. Brown to the game plan.
I mean, like I said, he's not just added to the game plan. That man is the game plan.
He is the game plan now, and it's a hell of a game plan. And I think this is a good place to kind of pack this in for now, because I'm sure we're going to revisit this a lot in the off season, because I think this is, you want to talk about positive takeaways from this year. This might be one of the big ones.